Okay, everybody. Nice, sunny, relatively warm day out here, so I decided to get a little bit of more work done on the '01 Hyundai Elantra. And specifically, we're going to be working on replacing the passenger rear wheel bearing and hub assembly, which you basically replace the hub assembly to replace the bearing. So you have to forgive the background noise. I live right next to the highway, so just the nature of the beast, I suppose. Replacing rear wheel bearing on a '01 Hyundai Elantra is actually pretty simple. Basically, all you're doing is replacing, or rather removing the brake drum, and the hub is actually pressed onto the brake drum from the rear. So you pull the drum, take the hub off, put another hub on, put the drum back on. So, okay. Aside from the tools necessary to get the car up in the air, like a jack and a four-way to get the tire off, common sense stuff. The other tools that you're going to need are going to be a flathead screwdriver, about that thin, could be a little thinner. So there's a flathead screwdriver, and you're going to need either a half-inch drive ratchet or breaker bar, and I'm using a ratchet in this instance. You're also going to need, the only specialty tool really is a 32 millimeter axle nut socket, which is what I've got here. This fits on there pretty good. If you don't have one of these, you can go to your local auto parts store like AutoZone or O'Reilly or wherever, any auto parts store that does the Lona tool program, and this is like $15 to replace, or to rent the socket. And of course you get all that back when you return the tool undamaged. So half-inch drive ratchet or breaker bar and a 32 millimeter axle nut socket, and of course a flathead screwdriver. So the first thing you're going to do once you've got the car in this position up on jacks, or I would usually put it on a jack stand, but can't seem to locate my jack stands just now, so that's the way we're going to do it, is on a scissor jack with the tire that we pulled underneath it, just barely below the level of the drum. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that the thing rotates freely, but there's no real drag, that the parking brake is not set. If the parking brake is set, you're going to need to release it before you attempt to remove the drum. That'll back the brake shoes off of the inside of the drum, and it'll make it to where you can remove the drum much easier. Now, of course, this is going to depend on the amount of brake wear you have. So let's get to work here. I'm going to set you on a brick so I can do this. Hopefully catch this properly. I've already disassembled this once just to check the condition of the brakes, so everything's pretty well already been pulled, but I figured I'd go through the steps. Okay, so remove the center cap, and now you've got your spindle nut. This is actually mainly what holds your drum and hub assembly onto the spindle. So now you're going to need to use the 32 millimeter axle nut socket, and see if I got that. There we go. Don't know how much I retightened it, but obviously you won't be able to do it that easily if you're taking it apart for the first time. You'll either need to set the emergency brake if you've got a good brake, or put like a breaker bar to hold against the ground or against the tire, to use the studs as a holding point to keep it from turning, which is actually what I did the first time I pulled this down. I used the four-way, one of the arms of the four-way, in order to hold it in place. Okay, so there's our nut, so we're going to set that aside. There is a flat washer with a groove in here, which I may be able to pull out without pulling the drum. Maybe not, but I don't know, if I had my magnetic tool it would be a lot easier, but it'll come out when you pull the drum. So flat washer, don't lose it, that's important. So now you should be able to, when I first pulled this, I had to rap on it with a hammer, which is another tool you'll probably need just to kind of loosen everything up. But like I said, I've already pulled this, so it shouldn't require too much finagling. There we go. And there it comes off to expose our brake inner workings down in there. So, oh yeah, gloves are another great idea in case you like happen to wash your hands constantly, but I don't, so I like the Permatex latex gloves. Okay, so we got our drum off, and there's the hub right there. You can see the 4 studs that hold the hub in place. The washer's still stuck in there. I'll tap that out in a minute. In fact, I'll just tap that out right now. Tap the washer out. Don't lose it. You need it. And now what you would do in order to replace the hub, because the hub is actually this inner portion here, and so I don't have the price list in front of me, but I called 3 local auto stores, an AutoZone and O'Reilly, and I forget which other, and I think the O'Reilly's was the cheapest, I think. In any event, it's around $80 to $90, and I'm sure I can get it cheaper online through like, there's a Parts Master website, and there's Auto Pro and a lot of other auto part distribution websites. But I really don't want to wait to get the hub on here. I need to get this car drivable again to where I can start working with the other problems. But anyway, so in order to replace the hub, what you would do is you would flip the drum over like so. Don't want to lose that. And you would use the hammer to just wrap on these studs, and you just oscillate. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just sporadically do it. You will also have to remove this Phillips head screw, because that actually threads into the back of the hub, and it's really just a positioner or a guide, but you won't be able to remove the hub without removing that screw. So once you've got it to this point, you would need to break loose this Phillips head screw and then just sequentially wrap the studs to get the hub off of the drum. Now, I'm actually not going to be doing this. I'm not going to be reusing the drum that I have, because when I went to a local U-Pull-It, I actually didn't have a screwdriver big enough to pull that screw out, so I was not going to be able to separate the hub from the drum. So I managed to get the hub and the drum assembly at a local U-Pull-It for one price. So, and it's got good bearings in it, and the drum is actually really good too. There's really no lip on this drum, the way that there's no lip on this drum. So, you know, I'm not exchanging good for bad in respect to the drum. I'm exchanging good used for good used, and that's the way I like to do it. But that's what's involved in replacing the hub on a rear brake drum for a 2001 Hyundai Elantra. You're basically removing the drum. Now, on the brakes, if the brakes are really worn or if they're sticking or jammed, there is a center plug, a rear plug on the back plate of the assembly here. You'll have to access it from behind, and there's a spider gear. It's actually the adjuster for your brakes, and you can back off the spider gear in order to cause the shoes to release back in, to release from the drum. But I didn't have to do that on this car. You do notice on this car there's a lot of accumulation of crud and junk, and there's a slight odor of brake fluid in here, and that leads me to believe there's also, I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up, cheapo weepo camera, but you can see a little bit of moisture there. I suspect I have a leaking wheel cylinder, so I already bought a can of all-purpose brake cleaner, and I'm gonna take and spray everything down to get a real good look, and then see if I got a leak. If I have a leak, well, I'll need to replace the wheel cylinder, but that's kind of that's kind of neither here nor there with regards to replacing the bearing. The reason why I'm replacing the bearing is it feels and sounds like driving a blender when you're actually driving this car. So the wheel bearing is very substantially bad, which I believe I already showed that on the original profile video, which will get uploaded when I upload this video. So anyway, that's how to replace the rear wheel bearings. There goes a hearse. Okay. That's how you replace the rear wheel bearing and drum, or wheel bearing and hub assembly on an 01 Hyundai Elantra. Of course, it doesn't matter if you're talking drivers or passenger side, it's all the same. And of course, this is a good opportunity to go in and take a look at the condition of your actual brake shoes to see how much wear and tear you've got, whether you want to go down and throw a set of brakes in here or not. But anyway, that's basically what I wanted to show you, and thanks for watching.